Hey folks, so I really wasn't planning to play the Oakwynd launch, but it was rainy most of the day here in Barcelona, so I hopped on this morning and put in about 12 hours, making it to level 22, entirely pugging it before I called it a day. Let's go through my thoughts on what I saw out there. I missed the queue entirely, which people were reporting was there for 6 to 8 hours or so, which I guess is pretty typical for launches. I just made a mage to have something easy to play today. Let's check out one of the newbie zones, West Freeport. I found the newbie zone to be pretty chill. It was fairly crowded, as you'd expect. One downside when I logged on early was that there were quite a lot of AFK tunes standing around, and that was surely hurting the queue times for others trying to get in. The encounter locking mechanic was mostly functional, and you had folks recognizing it and not running over and trying to kill the stuff you were already engaged with. There were reports and a GM acknowledgement on Discord that the guards weren't properly assisting in all cases, but I didn't see that myself. As I move around here, you can see the names of the mobs start gray right after they spawn and remain that way for a short period of time, then swap to green, which means that they're open to be engaged, and then back to gray again when someone aggroes them, which locks the mob to that person. After getting a few more levels in Common Lens, I got into my first group. We did North Row without incident and then headed to South Row to the formerly Oasis to do Crocs. Right as we got into the zone, Lockjaw was eating someone, and it was great to see it didn't create a huge mess along the coast in the zone, and we could just walk by him without any further incident. However, a bit later I ran across the first issue with the encounter locking system. As it's been explained, if a mob has a gray name, it should be locked out. This could be, for example, that it's engaged on someone else or a few seconds after it spawned. Well, Lockjaw had a gray name and kept pathing back and forth. I just had to see what was going on, and yeah, well, I needed to buy spells at this point anyway. When I got back to camp, his name was the correct color, so the moral, I guess, is at this point, just don't rely on the name colors to indicate mob status. Here you can see how he looked after I returned, and that's the way the name should look when it's open to be engaged. We did manage to avenge my death before I headed on to greener pastures. Next stop was Unrest, getting the true classic experience today. I zoned into this, but it was no problem at all. They didn't aggro and just path back to their home. We also had someone later on try to train us. I didn't catch that on camera, but you can see here some of it pathing back and ignoring us, so that worked great. This was the first group I had with an enchanter pet. There have been a lot of reports that pets have problems for a number of reasons, namely that aggro is wonky, folks aren't getting audio triggers on pet breaks, and even though pets break, they still show up as being petted in your pet window. I didn't see any of that myself. This group was alright as pugs go, although the enchanter Smoelf was a bit of a dolt. Finally, to finish out the day, I moved on to Upper Guck, after not having any luck getting a group in Sol A. I generally try to avoid Guck, but Upper at least wasn't too bad today. You know when you show up in a group that's all pet classes, a gnome enchanter, and a healer, that it'll probably be pretty solid. One of the things I encountered was that groups were kind of just sitting on top of each other. I guess everyone could kill their own pulls, but it just felt like a cluster, especially before the X-Target window was available, and with the bugginess of the name colors, didn't really feel like traditional EverQuest. Or maybe better stated, it just felt inherently confrontational, although everyone was just doing their own thing. One of the things that makes EverQuest great is the latent competition, even in relatively low-stakes environments, and that was really lacking. And no surprise, look whose corpse we found off in the distance. So all in all, I'd give this launch about a 4 or 5 out of 10. One of the things that's evident is that the devs are really going to need to work to hammer out a lot of this stuff to make it more playable and not abandon the server like last year's experimental server was abandoned. It'll be interesting to see how the raid encounters work with the new encounter locking system, so I'm looking forward to hearing stories about that. Going to miss it myself. I'm on to Underfoot launch tomorrow in Aerodune. Good luck out there, everyone.